Can people really see the future?
Astrologer and physician Michel de Nostradamus. Les prophéties, the prophecies.
You can't call it channeling, you can't call it hypnosis because it is so different.
Many people admired him, many people ridiculed him. But no one can ignore the mystery of the 16th century French astrologer Nostradamus. Known for confusing predictions such as the rise of Napoleon and of Adolf Hitler, both world wars, and the nuclear destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 2024 will be a dangerous year because there are many changes, one of which is a 7.5 magnitude earthquake that hit Ishikawa and the Noto Peninsula in Japan earlier this year. So, what are other prophecies? Will it become true? Why did those prophecies shock the world? In this episode, we will explain in more detail. Smash that thumbs up button for me. Leave me a comment down below and share this video with your friends. And let's get started. A new and younger pope. Nostradamus' writings from 1555 describe continuing global turmoil, including naval conflicts, royal instability, and humanitarian crises. At the advanced age of 87, he is having health problems and recently had to skip the United Nations Climate Conference because of pneumonia and respiratory problems. This turmoil could lead to a split with Pope Francis in 2024. Nostradamus wrote, "Through the death of a very old pope, a Roman in the prime of his life will be elected. It will be said that he weakens his vision, but he will sit long in bidding activities." While the arrival of a younger, vibrant pope sounded like a good thing, Nostradamus immediately said that the new leader would weaken his vision, and that he would hold the papacy for a long time. Of course, the exact meaning of the word weak is still debated. Do you mean the church's influence will somehow decrease, or is there some bigger scandal on the horizon? That, only time will tell. World War III. Next, let's also come to a prophecy related to war. The internet is flooded with World War III posts, referring to the latest drone and missile attack launched by the Iranian military against Israel. Many people on social networks also wonder whether Nostradamus' prophecies will come true. According to Nostradamus' prediction, the Third World War will be triggered from Asia, and with Iran nuclear attack on Israel, this could be the beginning of it at a time when countries start taking sides. A verse translated from Nostradamus' book reads, "The red enemy will turn pale with fear, terrifying the great ocean." It is currently speculated that this statement is related to tensions between China and Taiwan, but recent attacks by the Houthis on ships in the Red Sea seem more relevant. A disease of King Charles. Next, let's go to a rich family in England. In the context of King Charles's health problems, a mysterious prediction of Nostradamus once again came to light. Nostradamus prophesied that King Charles's reign could end early this year. This prediction coincided with the shocking news of his cancer diagnosis, which was soon followed by news of another royal, the Princess of Wales, also being diagnosed with cancer. Nostradamus predicted the fall of the monarch, hinting at the possibility of abdication or deposition. His prediction also implies that Prince Harry may ascend to the throne. This prediction causes concern for royal followers, especially since Nostradamus accurately predicted Queen Elizabeth II's death at the age of 96. The book's excerpt reads, "The King of the Isles was expelled by force, replaced by one who would leave no trace of a king." An expert named Mario Redding analyzed and interpreted this document, saying, "Because they did not agree with his divorce, a man they later considered unworthy, the people will drive out the king of the island, a man who will replace the one who never wished to become king." King Charles's cancer diagnosis was followed by the Princess of Wales's cancer announcement. This comes after Kensington Palace was forced to let the princess speak in public due to widespread conspiracy theories. These theories came to light after a photo of the princess and her 3 children on Mother's Day went viral, leading major photo agencies to issue kill notices after the photo was found to be heavily edited. Kate Middleton, on the other hand, continues to receive preventative cancer treatments as she recovers from abdominal surgery in January. Now move to the part we guess that everyone is concerned about: climate change. With the climate crisis becoming more intense by the day, it is no secret that a climate disaster is headed towards the world if nothing significant is done to change it. To advance understanding about the issues, governments agreed to hold twice-a-year dialogues at the mid-year and end-of-year UN climate talks, as well as a ministerial roundtable once a year, the first of which happened in Dubai. Nostradamus's prediction read, "The dry earth will grow more parched, and there will be great floods when it is seen. Very great famine through pestiferous wave." In the year 2024, the solar storm phenomenon has warmed the Earth. However, it is not harmful to humans on Earth, but they can affect some technologies on Earth, such as power grids, communications, and satellites in orbit around Earth. They would pose a danger to unshielded astronauts, such as astronauts traveling to the Moon or Mars. Large doses can cause death. However, solar storms and their effects are not a problem for us on Earth's surface. Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field protect our human bodies from the effects of solar flares. Is the prophecy being fulfilled? Alongside, I'll delve into the biblical perspective on the end times, encouraging reflection through the lens of Nostradamus's prophecies. Jesus, in Matthew 24:5-8, provides vital insights into discerning the approach of the end times, warning of false messiahs, escalating conflicts, and escalating natural calamities. These indicators align with Nostradamus's famed predictions, crafted through meticulous calculations of celestial movements and earthly events. His 942 poetic quatrains detail a vision of the future, accurately foretelling epidemics, wars, and significant historical upheavals, from the French Revolution to world wars and beyond. Many scholars suggest that Nostradamus drew inspiration from ancient prophecies, particularly biblical texts, augmenting them with astrological interpretations to forecast future occurrences. Emperor Henry II of France's fate, as foretold by Nostradamus, and the subsequent demise of Napoleon echo the accuracy of his visions. Notably, his prediction of the Great Fire of London in 1666 stands as a testament to his prophetic prowess, leaving even skeptics in awe. Throughout his life, Nostradamus meticulously documented his prophecies, publishing them in collections like The Prophecy in 1555. To evade scrutiny, he veiled his predictions in poetic ambiguity and multilingual intricacies. Yet his foresight into historical events, from Hitler's atrocities to modern-day tragedies like the Challenger disaster, remains uncannily accurate. In retrospect, Nostradamus's legacy persists as a captivating enigma, blending astrology, literature, and prophecy to offer glimpses into the mysteries of the future. Now that we've delved into the origins of Nostradamus's predictions, let's examine some that have allegedly come true. One particularly discussed prophecy revolves around the Great Fire of London in 1666. Nostradamus's Century 2, Quatrain 51 reads, "The blood of the just will be demanded of London, burnt by the fire in the year 66. The ancient lady will fall from her high place, and many of the same sect will be killed." Some interpreters connect the blood of the just to the fatalities caused by the fire, while London burnt by fire in the year 66 inches seems to refer directly to the historic event of 1666. Additionally, the ancient lady is commonly interpreted as a representation of London itself. The mention of the woman and many of the same sect being killed is often linked to the religious unrest that followed the fire. It's essential to acknowledge that interpreting Nostradamus's verses is subjective, with many scholars and skeptics arguing that his quatrains are sufficiently vague to apply to numerous events post facto, rather than genuinely predicting them. While intriguing, the connection between this prophecy and the Great Fire of London warrants skepticism, although it undeniably resonates with the event. But there's more. In a chilling anticipation of the horrors witnessed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Nostradamus envisioned unparalleled devastation. His prophecy spoke of scourges the like of which was never seen, a description that eerily fits the atomic bombings of these Japanese cities at the close of World War II. Survivors endured agonizing radiation sickness, and countless lives were lost. Nostradamus's imagery of a stone in the tree possibly symbolizes the mushroom cloud that dominated the skyline, suggesting an incongruous and devastating event. The reference to people put out by steel could allude to the aircraft responsible for delivering the atomic bombs. While interpretations vary, some see these prophecies as depicting not just physical devastation, but also the enduring consequences of war and disaster, including famine and widespread suffering. Nostradamus's apparent ability to foresee such catastrophic events continues to captivate and unsettle, prompting ongoing debate over the nature of his predictions and their relevance to contemporary times. So which of Nostradamus's prophecies came true? The death of Henry II. Henry II of France was a personal acquaintance of Nostradamus, who once addressed him in a letter as the most invincible Henry, King of France. Unfortunately, Henry actually turned out to be very vincible indeed, and came to a horribly painful end aged just 40. A passionate sportsman fond of hunting and jousting, Henry's active nature proved his undoing when, in the summer of 1559, he held a tournament to celebrate a recent peace treaty. During a joust with one of his young soldiers, the latter's lance shattered, driving splinters into the king's eye and skull. A slow and painful death from sepsis followed, and many believe it was foretold by Nostradamus. The quatrain in question tells us, the young lion will overcome the older one, that he will pierce his eyes through a golden cage, and that 2 wounds will ensure a cruel death. Uncanny? Perhaps. Although critics have pointed out the quatrain also says the killing occurs on the field of combat in a single battle, while Henry was accidentally slain during a playful joust. The Great Fire of London. It's worth quoting the alleged Great Fire of London quatrain in full because it's one of the most mysterious prophecies of all. The blood of the just will commit a fault at London, burnt through lightning of 23's the 6. The ancient lady will fall from her high place. Several of the same sect will be killed. It's tantalizing if you interpret, as some do, 23's the 6 is 66, 20x 3 plus 6. Add to that the mention of London and references to deaths, and you can see why it's believed to be a prophecy of the Great Fire of London in 1666. As ever with Nostradamus, ambiguities make it hard to be definitive. The Great Fire was set off by a flame in a bakery, not by lightning. And what does the ancient lady signify? Perhaps London itself? This is one to puzzle over even by Nostradamus' standards. The coming of Adolf Hitler. Nostradamus has been credited with quite a few 20th century predictions, and the rise of Adolf Hitler is often cited as one of them. And to be fair, his writings do provoke a slight chill of recognition. From the depths of the west of Europe, Nostradamus wrote, a young child will be born of poor people. And what does this child do? He will by his tongue seduce a great troop, and his fame will spread far beyond Europe. Another quatrain of possible significance mentions fighting close by the Hister, which is either a loose reference to Hitler or a more mundane mention of the old name of the Danube River, depending on your point of view. The Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. Within 2 cities, Nostradamus wrote, there will be scourges the like of which was never seen. That description would certainly apply to what occurred in the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which were devastated by atomic bombs at the end of World War II. The quatrain paints an increasingly bleak picture, foretelling famine within plague, potentially a reference to radiation sickness and the lasting disruption of war, and people put out by steel, which may point to the planes which dropped the bombs. Of course, this may well have been Nostradamus talking about a literal plague affecting any potential cities, given that the man himself had first-hand experience of treating plague patients. But again, it depends on how much you really want to believe. The Kennedy assassination. The killing of President John F. Kennedy was one of the pivotal moments of the 20th century, so it's not surprising that many have scoured the works of Nostradamus for any hint of a prophecy. A commonly quoted contender is the bit that reads, "From on high, evil will fall on the great man," perhaps a reference to the fact he was shot from a distance by a sniper or snipers. Tellingly, the quatrain continues with, "A dead innocent will be accused of the deed." Is this Lee Harvey Oswald, the suspected assassin who was himself shot dead soon after, and has long been regarded as an innocent fall guy? As if that wasn't enough to convince us, Nostradamus assures us the true guilty party will remain in the mist, a sentiment which countless JFK conspiracy theorists will surely agree with. Now let's go back to the predictions of the end times in the Bible. The Bible describes events, conditions, and attitudes that would mark the conclusion of the current system of things, or the end of the world. Matthew 24:3, King James Version. The Bible calls this time period the last days and the time of the end, or end times. 2 Timothy 3:1, Daniel 8:19, easy to read version. What are some Bible prophecies about the last days? The Bible foretold many things that together would be the sign to identify the last days. Luke 21:7. Consider some examples. War on a large scale. Jesus foretold nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Matthew 24:7. Similarly, Revelation 6:4 foretold a symbolic horseman representing warfare that would take peace away from the earth. Famine. Jesus foretold there will be food shortages. Matthew 24:7. The book of Revelation foretold an additional symbolic horseman, whose ride would result in famine on a large scale. Revelation 6:5-6. Great earthquakes. Jesus said that there would be earthquakes in one place after another. Matthew 24:7, Luke 21:11. These great earthquakes around the world would cause suffering and loss of life on an unprecedented scale. Disease. According to Jesus, there would be pestilences or epidemics of terrible diseases. Luke 21:11, Contemporary English Version. Crime. Although crime has existed for centuries, Jesus foretold that in the last days there would be an increasing of lawlessness. Matthew 24:12, ruining of the earth. Revelation 11:18 foretold that mankind would be ruining the earth. They would do so in many ways, not only through violent and corrupt actions, but also by bringing harm to the environment. Deteriorating attitudes. At 2 Timothy 3:1-4, the Bible foretold that people in general would be unthankful, disloyal, not open to any agreement, slanderers, without self-control, fierce, without love of goodness, betrayers, headstrong, puffed up with pride. These attitudes would reach such extremes that the era could rightly be described as critical times hard to deal with. Breakdown of the family. At 2 Timothy 3:2-3, the Bible foretold that many people would have no natural affection for their family, and that children would be disobedient to parents. Diminished love of God. Jesus foretold the love of the greater number will grow cold. Matthew 24:12. Jesus meant that love for God would grow cold in most people. Likewise, 2 Timothy 3:4 says that in the last days such ones would be lovers of pleasures rather than lovers of God. Religious hypocrisy. At 2 Timothy 3:5, the Bible foretold that people would appear to worship God, but would not truly live by His standards. Increased understanding of Bible prophecies. The book of Daniel foretold that in the time of the end, many would gain increased knowledge of Bible truth, including accurate understanding of these prophecies. Daniel 12:4, footnote. A global preaching work. Jesus foretold, "This good news of the kingdom will be preached in all the inhabited earth." Matthew 24:14, widespread apathy and ridicule. Jesus foretold that people in general would ignore the overwhelming evidence of the approaching end. Matthew 24:37-39. More than that, 2 Peter 3:4 foretold that some would ridicule the evidence, dismissing it completely. All prophecies fulfilled. Jesus said that the last days would be marked by the simultaneous fulfillment of all these prophecies, not just a few or even most of them. Matthew 24:33. In 1914, God's kingdom began ruling in heaven, and one of its first actions was to expel Satan, the devil, and the demons from heaven and restrict their activity to the earth. Revelation 12:7-12. Satan's influence on mankind can be seen in many of the bad attitudes and actions that make the last days, critical times, hard to deal with. 2 Timothy 3:1. Many people are distressed by these critical times. They are concerned that society itself is deteriorating. Some even fear for the future of humanity. Meanwhile, others who are likewise distressed by world conditions have a hopeful outlook. They are convinced that God's kingdom will soon take action to rid the world of its problems. Daniel 2:44, Revelation 21:3-4. They wait patiently for God to fulfill His promises, and they find comfort in the words of Jesus. The one who has endured to the end will be saved. Matthew 24:13, Micah 7:7. What does the Bible say about the end times? Below you will find popular Bible verses about the end times, the last days of the earth. The study of end times theology is called eschatology. While Revelations contains the most well-known passages in the Bible for studying the end times, there are many Old and New Testament passages that speak prophecy of the future events. We do not need to fear the end times. We should study Bible prophecies so we can be prepared for the return of Christ. There are three main events that make up the end times: the rapture, the Great Tribulation, and the second coming of Christ. It's important to remember that there are a variety of ways to interpret the scriptures on the end times, and that it's helpful to reference articles, commentaries, and sermons from pastors and teachers to grasp a better understanding of the last days. For more reasons from BibleStudyTools.com, Read Understanding End Times, Prophecy in the Bible, and How Should We Read and Interpret Revelation. Scripture commands us. But understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness but denying its power. Avoid such people. 2 Timothy 3:1-5. As the difficult times of the last days approach, let us stay steadfast in devotion to God and His Word. May these Bible verses about the end times encourage your faith and strength. Bible verses about the end times. 1 Thessalonians 4:13-18 NIV. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind, who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in Him. According to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord Himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore encourage one another with these words. Matthew 24:40-41 NIV. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a handmill, one will be taken and the other left. 2 Timothy 3:1-5 NIV. But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. Have nothing to do with such people.
Among the many targets was the Philippines, where 90,000 American and Filipino troops tried to fight off the Japanese onslaught. These men were led by General Douglas MacArthur. He had been their commander for years, but had to be smuggled out of the country during the night to escape the Japanese invasion. He made it to Australia safely, expecting to immediately begin the fight to save his men back in the Philippines. Instead, he was told the terrible news that there was nothing he could do. The country he had left behind would fall to Japan, and his men would either die or be captured by the Japanese. Many of them would eventually become victims of the infamous Bataan Death March. Hope for the Philippines. The news distressed MacArthur, but he didn't give up hope for the country and people he had grown to love. Instead, he issued a solemn promise to those whom he had been forced to abandon. They were 3 simple words, but they had a powerful impact. I shall return. MacArthur lived by those words for the next 2.5 years, doing everything he could to free the islands and the people he cared so much for. The words weren't just for MacArthur's sake. The Filipinos and Americans who were trapped by the Japanese and would soon fall victim to their brutality heard those words as well. I shall return became a rallying cry for those who were still fighting the Japanese, giving them hope when it seemed that there was no hope. A greater promise. 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ left the earth and assumed his place at the right hand of the Father. The world that he left was a mess.
Thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next video.